All right, so Esther Reed and Sarah Osborne are helpful to us in looking at women in the Revolution because they both highlight for us the possibilities of change, but also the limits of change during the Revolution. So Esther Reed wrote, if you have an earlier edition of Through Women's Eyes, you might have this document. If you've got the newest edition, it's not in there. But she wrote a piece called Sentiments of an American Woman. You don't need to actually look at it. The key thing I usually point out about it is she doesn't sign her name. Right? She signs an American patriot because, again, it wouldn't be proper to sign her name to this document. And in the document, she talks about how when she notes the ways that women supported the boycott effort before the war and says, hey, we got to keep that up. Just like we were doing homespun and finding substitutes for things, we got to keep doing that now in the Revolution. And so she forms this group called the Ladies Association, and they start raising money to help supply the troops. So they hold sales, they knock on people's doors, they ask for money. And this is an example, again, of how they're kind of stepping outside, like, the bounds of what's proper, because, like, a woman shouldn't really be knocking on someone's door and asking for money. But she can do it in the context of doing it as a wife and a mother. She and the Ladies Association, they'll raise $300,000 in paper currency, which, think this is, like, just on their own effort, knocking on doors and having bake sales. This is no GoFundMe, right? And they raised $300,000 in paper currency. Today, that'd be millions that they raise. So that highlights the possibilities of change for us. Again, they're still doing it within their role of wife and mother, but after they raise the money, Reed wants to give $2 to every soldier. And Washington's like, yeah, no, you can't do that. If you give $2 to every soldier, he's just going to use it on prostitutes and alcohol. Instead, Washington says, what I want you to do is I want you to go buy some cloth and make them shirts. And Reed actually kind of fought this a little bit. She wrote a few more letters. I don't want, no, this is what I raised the money for. But George Washington, right? There's no way she can win this. So that's a great example of how she represents both the possibilities of change, but also the limits of change, because when all was said and done, she raised all this money, she's making shirts. Now, Sarah Osborne was a camp follower. And what this meant is when the war started, if you didn't own your land or if the British invaded, women sometimes would just go off with their husbands. Brothers, fathers followed the camp. And then they do everything on the battlefield and in the camp that they would have been doing at home, right? Cooking, cleaning. Washington felt these women were a nuisance. He called them a clog upon our every movement, which in his defense, it's probably hard to fight a war and have thousands of women and children following you, but they were doing a service in keeping his camps cleaner. The British had more camp followers, and proportional to the population, fewer troops died among the British because their camps were cleaner. But Washington can't know this part. He called them a clog upon our every movement. So Osborne's one of these camp followers. And in the document you have on your outline, it's after the war. She's trying to get some money for the time she served as a camp follower. And if you read over her document, it too kind of highlights the possibilities of change, but also the limits. Because, the first part of the document, she's outlining basically what she did as a camp follower, making food. She runs into Washington one time. He's like, aren't you afraid of the cannonballs? And she's like, yeah, the guys have to eat, can't starve. And then another time, just after that section where she talks about feeding the men, she says, there's this hurrah and all this noise. And she's like, what now? And another soldier turns to her and says, are you not, soldier, to know what this means? So what he seems to be saying to her is, now he could be exasperated, geez, lady, come on, don't you know? But regardless, he called her a soldier. Are you not soldier enough to know what this means? Lady, you've been with us all these years. Don't you know what this means? So in that moment, he seems to see her like him. Now, the very next moment, she says she's cooking breakfast for the troops. So there are limits to that change. And, likewise, she also didn't tell him to cook his own breakfast. So she's also reflective of those limits too. All right. So if you've got any questions about Esther Reed or Sarah Osborne, be sure and ask those in the discussion board that's connected with this module.